Hello. This is a video presentation of my IB Computer Science IA. For my IA, I use Java Swing in order to create a travel recommendations program. During the development of this program, me and my client came to an agreement that it was important to allow the user to input how many people are going, when they'll be going, and when they're going. And the program will then show hotels and attractions of interest based on what the user inputted. So first, the user is asked these four basic questions. Let's say four people are going and two of them are children. And let's say our vacation will start on July 7th and end on July 27th. Also, something to note is that these text boxes will not accept letters or other non-numeric characters. So let's say instead of two children are going, we try to say B children are going. You can see that the text box only accepts numbers and backspaces. So if we try to re-add two, it works. Now, once you press this continue button, the program will attempt to store all the answers that are inputted in these four text boxes. What it first does is checks if the amount of children going is less than the amount of people going. The purpose of this is that this program will calculate the amount of adults going by subtracting the amount of children going from the amount of people going, which is why the text boxes can only take number values. A computer can't subtract strings, only numbers. The amount of children going must be less than the amount of people going because otherwise the amount of adults going would be 0 or negative, and none of which is possible. If the amount of children going isn't less than the amount of people going, it will send this error message. The amount of children going must be less than the amount of people going. The total number of people going also has to be greater than 0 because otherwise no one would be going, which is impossible. So if we input 0, it will say amount of people going cannot be 0. Next, the program checks the dates that we're traveling on. If the end date is before the start date, like if we start on July 7th and end on June 27th, it'll send an error message saying end month must be after start month. The program also checks if the inputted dates are valid given the month. So I can't say something like July 37th because July only has 31 days, not 37. So if I input 37, it'll say invalid date for month chosen. I also can't say July 0 because there is no day 0 in a month. So if we input 0, it says dates cannot be 0. Now if I press the continue button and all my answers are valid, so let's make all the answers valid. No error messages will pop up, and the program will take me to the second page. Now, in the second page, you have to pick between these 6 regions in order to continue. We have the Northwest, the Southwest, the Great Plains, the Midwest, the Northeast, and the Southeast. Clicking on any of these will take you to the next page. Let's say we want to go to the Northwest. Now, on this third page, you can see that you have 3 options for hotels and attractions. Now you can press these left or right buttons to show more options. There are a total of 6 hotels and attractions for you to choose from. The selected options are put into an array list, and clicking on these buttons will add them to the array list, and clicking on them again will remove them from the array list. You can also click select all to add all the options to the array list, and you can also click remove all to clear the array list of all its options. Now for some of these regions, the dates that we input in page 1 have an effect on what's seen in this page. So in the Northwest, since we said earlier that we're going from July 7th to July 27th, the program knows that we're going in the summer. So it will recommend Kenai Fjords National Park in Alaska as a possible attraction. But if we go back and redo this process, but instead of July, we do January, so January 7th to January 27th, the program will then determine that we're going in the winter. So instead of recommending Kenai Fjords, it will recommend visiting the Northern Lights. So once we select where we want to go, we can proceed to the final page by pressing continue. But first it checks if we've selected some hotels and attractions first. If the sizes of any of the array lists used for storing the selected options as 0, it will show an error message. So right now I have one item in the array attractions array list, Northern Lights, but 0 in the hotels array list. So it will show please select at least one hotel and one attraction. So if we add some hotels and areas to visit, we can then proceed to the final page. Now, in the final page, it is simply a summary of everything the user has inputted. So it shows how many people are going, and how many of which are children and adults. It then shows when you're going and where you're going. And at the bottom here, it shows what hotels and attractions you've selected. And as you can see, these lists are shown in alphabetical order. This was done by using a selection sort system using a for loop. This is why the size of the array lists have to be greater than 0, so the program can sort them without error. This is the entire process of the program recorded. So, now back on this third page, in the future, a possible method of adding onto this program can be adding a pop-up for each of these buttons that show additional information for each hotel and attraction, such as price, reviews, precise address, and more detailed information. Then on the bottom of the pop-up, it can ask if we want to add or remove this from the array list. This can be useful for the user so that they can have a better understanding on where they're going and what they'll be doing.